Once again, we're back in the courtroom, ready to bring in our next set of Pixar villains for criminal sentencing. And there are 3 films that we'll be discussing today. A superhero sequel, another Toy Story entry, and Pixar's first film of the 2020s. Despite the stark contrast between these movies, however, the villains featured within them are as menacing as many of their predecessors, making for a really interesting docket today.
I'd give anything to be loved the way you have.
But enough preamble, let's get this court in session. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and today we're once again sentencing Pixar villains for their crimes. Kicking things off, let's welcome the villains of The Incredibles 2 to the stand. Our first trial of the day is about the film's main antagonist, Evelyn Deaver, otherwise known as her alter ego, the Screenslaver. Evelyn Deaver's goal in the sequel is to ensure that all heroes are forever outlawed, as she blames them for the death of her parents. Evelyn is a compelling villain because of her ability to manipulate others through her intelligence and charisma. She's able to convince people to support her cause, even if it means using unethical means to achieve it. Additionally, her personal connection to the heroes and her desire to avenge her father's death adds depth to her character and makes her far more relatable. So overall, her complex motivations and tactics make her a pretty nuanced villain. As she tries to carry out this plan, she engages in brainwashing on a large scale. Her crimes go much deeper than that, however. Her attempts to dispose of the Incredibles makes her guilty of attempted murder. She also holds Elastigirl hostage at one point, adding a kidnapping charge to her sentencing. Last, but most certainly not least, her doings as the Screenslaver see her engage in mass terrorism and assault. She does everything from planning an assassination attempt to hijacking a monorail, showing that Evelyn will do anything possible to make her goals come to fruition. On account of all these dangerous doings, we sentence Evelyn Deaver to life in prison. Her crimes could easily place her in talks for the death penalty, but considering we don't see any actual casualties from her actions, she just barely manages to scurry away from our harshest punishment.
I don't want to die.
Nobody does.
Though Miss Deaver sought to make it so that the supers would never see a day of freedom ever again, it appears that she's only accomplished that for herself, which is quite ironic. Although the Screenslaver may be the main villain of the Incredibles sequel, she's not the only bad guy that we have to deal with. They also have to save the day from the cliffhanger villain of the original movie, the Underminer. The Underminer is a classic comic book villain brought to life. He endangers citizens, robs banks, and tries to take over the world. Right from the get-go, that means we can charge the Underminer with terrorism, robbery, and endangerment. His battle with the Incredibles family also means he's guilty of attempted murder. Though he's only in the film for a few minutes, he easily puts Evelyn to shame when it comes to rampage and destruction. As a result, we give the Underminer our first and only death sentence of the day. Although the Underminer might not be as calculating as the Screenslaver is, he had far more dangerous goals in mind when it came to his crimes. Evelyn wanted to outlaw superheroes, but the Underminer wants to rule the entire world. Although his crimes are heftier than most, his end will be met the same way as others who receive this punishment: lethal injection. This is a case where we think the crimes justify the sentencing, and that is why the Underminer gets a harsher punishment than Miss Deaver. To put it simply, this villain is proof that crime doesn't pay. Moving on, it's time to look at the villains of the most recent installment of Pixar's most celebrated franchise, Toy Story 4. We'll be placing 2 villains from this film on trial today. The first up is Gabby Gabby, an antique talking doll in need of a voice box. Gabby Gabby might be the film's main antagonist, but she's far different from other villains the series has showcased. She's not destructive like Sid, nor is she a dictator in the way Lotso was. Realistically, she's a character who has understandable goals, but immoral ways of trying to get them. After meeting Woody, she quickly realizes that he has a working voice box, the very item she's looking for.
You can't leave yet. You have what I need.
Woody, unfortunately, refuses to give it to her, which results in Gabby Gabby trying to kidnap Woody and taking Forky instead. This makes her guilty of both kidnapping and attempted kidnapping. Though this was a bad call on her part, Gabby Gabby does learn from this mistake and ultimately reforms. She makes amends with Woody for all the trouble she caused, making her one of the only villains in the franchise to be truly redeemed. Because of this, and the fact that her crimes are less egregious than most, we believe the best thing Gabby Gabby needs is a round of community service. Since she's already decided to become a better person, a prison sentence seems rather unnecessary for her. She is the least villainous of all the Toy Story antagonists, so it seems only fitting that she gets the most lenient punishment too. No villain is complete without a sidekick, and this is where the Bensons enter the picture. Similarly to Gabby Gabby, though these two dummies fill the classic role of an evil sidekick, the Bensons don't quite live up to the cliches of that archetype. They look a bit creepy and do engage in a lot of grunt labor, but other than that, they're far more different than the majority of evil sidekicks in animated films. Obviously, as evil sidekicks, they are guilty of aiding and abetting. The duo is also responsible for the kidnapping of Forky and the attempted kidnapping of Woody, meaning they're actually guilty of more crimes than Gabby herself. As such, while she got community service in lieu of a prison sentence, the Bensons will get the same punishment since she's the one that's been pulling the strings. The two of them did commit more crimes than Gabby Gabby, but she was the ringleader, so the sentence, we feel, should balance out. But real quick before we get to our last entry, if you're enjoying this sentencing format, make sure to check out our cinema sentencing channel. We'll actually be sentencing characters from live action movies and television series over there, and we'd love to have you go check it out. Link below. Now, we only have one more movie to look at today. All rise for the villains of Pixar's first film of the new decade, Onward. First up is easily the most imposing villain on this set, the Curse. Otherwise known as the Cursed Dragon. This powerful beast is made out of debris and exists solely to protect the Phoenix Gem from being stolen. This puts the dragon into conflict with the Lightfoot siblings, who are seeking it to bring back their deceased father. The curse tries not only to kill the two of them, but also Corey, which means this creature is guilty of 3 different counts of attempted murder. As the battle rages on, the curse also causes an unknown amount of destruction. The character is on screen for only a few minutes and doesn't even have an actual voice, yet they're undoubtedly one of the more dangerous villains seen in this crop of films. As a result, we give the Cursed Dragon 20 years in the pound. The curse could have easily gotten more time behind bars, but since they are only in the film for a few minutes, it's a bit harder to justify. Even so, it'll be quite some time before this dragon gets back to protecting its sacred gem. Last, but most certainly not least, we have the leader of the Pixie Dusters, Dewdrop. A typical rough and dangerous biker, Dewdrop and her gang love to rob and steal from those who can't defend themselves.
You got a problem, Shades?
Eventually, the Lightfoots make an enemy out of her and the Pixie Dusters, which makes Dewdrop obsessed with trying to get rid of the two. Overall, Dewdrop has 3 crimes attached to her name, and for that, we feel as though she should serve 3 years in prison. In all honesty, Dewdrop will no doubt be up to her mischievous ways again as soon as she gets out, and she's likely no stranger to the system, but maybe some time behind bars will get her to reevaluate her life choices. Probably not, but one can certainly imagine. But let us know in the comments section if you agree with our sentencing, and tell us what we should cover next. Make sure to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.